Okay. Now, okay, guys. So we're going to continue with the literature review. So I'm going to explain the literature review in a very brief way for us to continue with what with this part. Okay. So let's continue with this. So what is going to be, or in which way are we going to write the literature review? Okay. So right here, the literature review is going to tell us basically which are going to be just the works or the studies that have been recently written or researched, right? And what I'm talking about recently is something like a 5 years to 10 years old, right? So as we take this information from here, so review articles give an overview of existing literature in a field, often identifying specific problems or issues and analyzing information from available published work on the topic with a balanced perspective. Therefore, for example, if we're going to add literature review related to, I don't know, some studies that they were uh, conducted some like 20 years ago, so they're not going to be useful for us. Why? Because of the technological issues, because of the social issues, and also because of the generational issues, right? So people are going to change and things are going to change too with the years. Okay, so we're going to take into account that we're going to take some parameters for us to create this literature review section. So number one, we're going to review all the literature related to your research object. Okay, so for example, in this case, let's say anxiety, foreign languages anxiety, oral production anxiety, and so on, right? For example, class of culture when learning a foreign language. So all of those studies, recent studies, are going to help us know about which have been which have been the contribution, the relevant contribution to uh, provided from other researchers to the word. Okay. So therefore, you need to work on the systematic review, right? So you're going to categorize right here the studies. So for example, which studies are going to be focused on oral production, which ones are going to be developed on anxiety, which ones are going to be related to foreign language anxiety, which ones are going to be related to clash of culture, which ones are going to be related to learning theories, and so on, right? So that's going to be the way in which we're going to use this. And then the meta-analysis. Therefore, we're going to be far beyond that. Okay. So in the end, what is the literature review? As we see right here, so we see that this is a critical summary of all the published works on a particular topic, but not only a summary. We have to see, for example, in which way this is going to contribute to the justification and to the research objectives, right? Why? Because we're going to analyze right here the specific issues. We're going to identify trends in the research, and we're going to see if there are gaps in the existing literature, something that uh, is not or has not been researched, and that we can contribute there. Okay, so in this case, we're going to create a kind of help for scientists and readers, right? So why? Because the readers are going to be able to create ideas about the way you have understood and the way the researchers have validated these studies, right? And also because you as readers, you're going to read all of this and then you're going to say if this is useful or not, right? And for the scientists, because they're going to they're going to learn the way in which we're going to develop these researchers and how the results and the conclusions can give us more light for us to continue working on the field, right? And to identify new topics that could be researched in the following studies or in following studies. Okay, we have to take into account two little issues. Number one, the chronological part. So, as I was telling you before, no more than 5 years old, the studies, and the thematic. So, the categories of study. Okay, some tips right here for using the chronological approach. So, number one, um, you're going to say, for example, some ideas that they have been implemented and progressed over time, right? So, for example, we want to see how some authors have talked about the oral production and the way oral production has been implemented by using virtual learning environments. Could be one, okay? So, we're going to see in which way, since 2000 and until now, these virtual learning environments have have provided elements to students and teachers to keep on working on the pedagogical issues. Number two, you're going to group and discuss your sources in order in order of the publication date. So from the oldest to the newest. But in this case, I'm telling you, something that is going to be extremely old, let's say 10 years. But in the case, we haven't found information, newer information, right? Okay, you're going to check how the field has developed over the years, right? Same thing, the progression. And that's it. Okay. Now, for the thematic part, so you're going to create some just a summary. So, for example, you're going to summarize what is going to be one of the studies. Now, you're going to create the summary, but also you're going to interact with the author in order for you to see which are going to be the vital contributions from their study to your study. Okay, in which you're going to analyze the existing knowledge of the topic regarding the importance. So if the study is extremely important, that is going to be the number one, right? But if the study is not going to be that important, that is going to be a third part source. Okay. And start listing the citations that you may include in your paper, right? So which are going to be the citations, the most important citations that you think are going to be relevant inside your study. So which are going to be the sections that we're going to find right here? So number one, the introduction. Number two, the methods. Number two, the body, right? Number three, the discussions and conclusions. And then, well, the reference list, but that we're going to avoid that. So the most important issues right here are going to be this. Okay, introduction, methods, body, conclusions, and discussions, right? And then the importance of those studies inside your research. Let's see some examples about that. Okay, so what to take into account for the here? What to take into account for the introduction, right? So you're going to set the context. You're going to provide information about the field of study, the relevance, right, within the field, and the focus. The methods. So you're going to talk about in which way they have selected the data, in which way they have gathered the data, in which way they have analyzed it, right? Then the body. It says a chronological model has different paragraphs for different time periods. A thematic model has subtopics based on different themes. So the way in which the contributions for your study, right? Then the discussions and conclusions about that. So, for example, which were the conclusions that the authors have arrived, right? That's it. Also, you can create a checklist, right? So number one, you're going to choose the right topic by taking into account what? So something that is going to be interesting for you and also that is going to be important for your topic. Number two, once you have selected the right topic, check the literature you have chosen. Not all of the papers you're going to read are going to be vital for your study. So therefore, you need to sorry, you need to check them, right? So you're going to monitor your papers, right, to say if it is required inside your document or your study or not. You're going to take notes from the documents, right? You're going to read the documents and you're going to look for uh, those places in which what? Yeah, in the papers. Sorry, I lost my idea. Got it. You're going to highlight the most important sections of the document for you to see if you're going to cite them or you're going to interact with that or you're going to extract the information for you to transform it and for it to be placed inside your study. Then you're going to try to decide the way in which you're going to put that. So decide the format of your review. So if it's going to be just summary and interaction, or it's going to be just a review, right? If it is going to be thematic or chronological, right? And also, once again, you're going to talk about the importance of those studies inside your study. And finally, for this part, keep the focus specific and interest general, right? So related to each category, because you're going to create categories, they're going to see what is going to be, you're going to set what is the contribution from every study for the category, right? So for example, in my case, I was talking about two main categories in my literature review. The first one was related to the oral production and interaction. And the other one was related to pedagogy and virtuality. So all the studies that were relevant to pedagogy and virtuality, I set them over there. And then I talked about the relevance to my category and the other thing related to the oral production development. And that's it. Then analyze critically. You're not going to just summarize. Now you're going to analyze the whole document, right? And you're going to put over there that analysis. Therefore, you're going to use, you're going to review it, you're going to summarize it, you're going to review it, you're going to analyze it, and you're going to argument there, right? For you to put it in a very good way, so for example, get the structure right, so start writing the whole part of that literature review, right? So the way in which you're going to organize it. There are various ways. For example, you're going to use number one paper, and then the other paper, and then you're going to continue with the other paper inside the category. Or inside the category, you're going to start mixing all the documents by creating a continuous interaction between the authors and your ideas. Rely on the feedback, right? So you're going to send all that information to me, and I'm going to correct it for you to organize it, right? Remember, you need to be objective. All the subjective things, leave them aside. So be objective. What is going to be the contribution from those papers to your paper? And what is going to be the contribution from your paper to the world? And well, I don't suggest you to use older studies, right? The newer, the better. But if you're going to use older studies, because you're going to do a comparison between one older study to a newer study. So for example, let's say Brown, 2001, has stated some issues in his book called Teaching by Principles, right? But let's see who has followed the line on Brown and is talking about the same issue, right? So we can compare about that in order to say if that is relevant or not. And that's all. Okay, do you have questions? I'm going to stop the recording here.